What's going on, everyone? Chris here with Clutter Reduction Junk Removal in Palm Beach County, Florida. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to do a recap of my experience as a business owner in the junk removal field. Seeing as we're coming up on the end of this year, this will be my kind of official 2 year mark. So I started the business in the fall of 2020, but was doing more of just the background operations, building my SEO on the website, making sure everything's up and running. So that way, when I were to hit January 1st, I could take off and just kind of do it as is. Now, I was still working part time as a mover, but that is when I started operating my business and I had my insurance and everything was up and running. So I thought it would be kind of cool to talk about the things I've learned, maybe some realizations I didn't notice was such a big deal in junk removal. I did come as a professional mover, so a lot of this does kind of go hand in hand, but there's definitely a lot more to it being a business owner and having to kind of handle everything versus just going to management and saying, hey, I have a problem, or hey, client wants this, or hey, I don't know about the situation. And at the end of the day, so you gotta do what you gotta do to make money. But wanted to go ahead and go over some of the points of the things that I found to be a little bit more valuable. It is a little bit of a list. I will try to make it not super long, but still kind of informative as always. And we'll just kind of hop right into it. The first thing is to be professional and be confident in everything that you do, whether it's giving estimates when you're on the phone calls, if you have rules or restrictions for your business, stick to them. When you're on job sites, make sure you're being professional to other people. When you give pricing, be firm about it. You can offer discounts, or what I really like to do is you tell someone it's going to be a full truck, it's going to be $600, and they're like, holy crap, $600, I can't afford that, that's ridiculous. You say, I understand, and say, well, what's your budget? And they say, I was thinking more like 350, 400. Say, okay, well, how about we go ahead and get all the bulk stuff out, and I'll leave you with the smaller stuff that you could potentially put out on the curb, or that you can get rid of day by day with the trash can or whatever. So that way you're still standing by your pricing, you're not giving in to their desperation, but you're still able to accommodate your customer. Be confident, but be professional about everything you do. Next up is consistency. You hear cash is king. I think consistency is king when it comes to business. Be consistent with your marketing, with your networking, and with your pricing. You should be doing this almost 24/7 in a sense. Every day should be something geared towards your business. Every day you should be trying to reach out to new people. You should be building relationships with pre-existing customers. And when I talk about pricing being consistent, what I mean by it is it's going to take you some time to figure out what pricing really works for you. And it's going to depend hugely on your area and the services that you offer. But try to stick to a general range if you do think you're going to be switching things up here and there. But don't start with like my full load is $400. And then 2 months later it's 600. And then you realize that doesn't work out too much. So you drop down to 500. Try to find a range ahead of time that makes sense for you. What I like to do is look at companies in my area, find out what their prices are, see how big their trucks are, compare it to my own, and then kind of do a percentage based off of that. And just make sure that at the end of the day, your minimum cost covers your bills for the day so that at worst you're breaking even. But try to not, fluctuate too much. You don't want to have a repetitive client, let's say a realtor, for example, that uses you 10 times a year, and maybe they've only had the same price twice for the same load size every single time. It's going to be very inconsistent, and they're never going to know what your price is going to be. So you want it to be as stress-free as possible for your clients. Next up is efficiency that saves both time and energy. I think this is incredibly important for multiple aspects of our job, and whether that requires better equipment or better tools to make the job a little bit quicker, a little bit easier, or resources that can save you time. So for example, and I just talked about this with a subscriber the other day, I use an app for my invoices called Invoices. And it's proven to be extremely helpful and probably one of the best things I've made changes to in the past 2 years, other than getting a truck and trailer versus U-Hauls. But it allows me to not only, record pictures of the job and include all my items and send it out via text or email. I also get a copy in case the app ever goes down. I can request reviews through it. I can take payment through it. Overall, it's just a great resource versus printing out invoices and having to sit there and take a picture and sign them off and hope they remain clean all the time. So just things like that can really help save you time and energy. Next up is clientele. If you've ever had a job in your life, whether it's retail, the restaurant industry, service industry, maybe you're a professional like an accountant or something, people suck. Every industry deals with it. People are gonna suck. People are gonna challenge you. They're gonna argue with you. They're gonna say that you're wrong and they're right, even though they have no idea what they're talking about. You just have to learn to accept it. Can't let people get to you about it. At the end of the day, if someone flips out on me, I still feel bad even days later because they're attacking my personal business. It's not just the business, it's me too. But you can't let it get to you in a sense where you start changing your decisions about it. You start thinking, I don't know if this is right for me. People are going to suck. You just have to kind of deal with it and move on, learn from it, learn how to handle it better, and it'll make things a lot more smooth for you. This is probably the biggest thing I've learned about junk removal specifically, and that is that we are a luxury service that is designed to be more convenient for people. So in reality, anyone can do junk removal. It doesn't take a lot. Where we come in is for convenience. So someone can go and rent a U-Haul truck and clean out their whole house, bring it all to the dump, pay the dump fee, and probably walk out spending a couple $100s or less. Whereas if we were going with a full truck and a crew, it may cost them 1.5 to 2 times or 3 times that amount. You can bring stuff to donation. You can have donation companies come to you, but availability is a big one. Timing is a big one. That is where we come in. We are a convenient company. We have better time availability, and we're not going to say no to taking away your fabric couch that has a big stain on it, because guess what? We're not flipping it and reselling it to profit our organization. We're just going to go dump it if we can't donate it. So that's where junk removal is a luxury service, because we're not a necessity. We're just a stepping stone to get things done quicker or to make it easier for the client to get rid of their stuff. Next up, and should be a kind of a common thing for most people, but that is to be money smart. Whether it's with your purchases, your debt, your disposal, how you get rid of things, reselling items, making profit, charging more for items that cost you more money, whether it's time or just by disposal charges. Just be more frugal, have yourself on a budget, and just learn of how you can cover your expenses without having to have it dip into your profits. This one I think is important, especially for junk removal and moving companies, and that is to stack your money in the spring and summer when it's busy, to prepare yourself for the fall and winter when it is typically slower. So it's a very common thing for a lot of services to slow down in the fall and winter, whether you have heavy snow in your area and all services kind of cease. So you want to make sure that you have an emergency fund set up or you have some savings put away. You're not going to be bleeding for money and be desperate for all these stupid jobs and putting yourself in situations that you wouldn't otherwise need to be in if you just had a little bit of cash reserves. The next one is something that I've definitely learned a lot more about this year, and I've implemented it much more, and that is to be friendly with your competition and have an open mind when learning from other companies. So you may do all the research in the world and figure out, okay, I know exactly what I need to know for this, and someone else says, that sounds kind of dumb, you should try this. This is what's worked for me. Don't just blow it off because you've done your research. Try what they ask or look into it. You don't have to go with it. But there's a good chance that if it worked for them, it might work for you, especially if you're in the same field. Obviously, location is a huge factor, but for the most part, junk removal companies all run the same. We have the same operations. We charge in similar ways. The only difference is the price tag, and that's going to depend on your location and the kind of services you offer and or the resources and equipment that you use. But it's also good to be friendly with your competition in a way where not only can you kind of bounce ideas off each other's, but also if you ever need to refer out somebody else because you can't make it to a job, your customer should always be your priority. And this is where I really think this comes in handy. Say your customer calls you up and says, hey, I have a couch I need picked up. It's a sectional couch. Let's say you would charge a quarter truck, let's just say $250. But they're kind of at the edge of your county, or maybe you're just packed for the week. And maybe he's like, hey, I'm a realtor, blah blah blah. I'd be happy to work with you after this if all goes well. That's a really good connection to have, but you're just not able to get to it. You can say, I'm really sorry, my schedule is completely booked up. Otherwise, I'd love to plug you in there. I have a buddy who has a company though over in so and so. I'll pass your information along to him and see if he can work out something with you. And in the future, I'd be happy to network with you a little bit better. That way, you're still remaining a connection. You're not just passing him off in a way where you're losing business altogether. What you're doing is you're solving a problem for him, and you're helping out a fellow worker. Now, what you could do is you could set up a kickback system. For example, there's a guy in West Palm Beach that used to watch my channel, and he was in my area but a couple cities away. He just moved to the county above me. So now he's in the area that I don't work in anymore, and vice versa. But he still gets calls from people down here to where, unless it's like a full load, it's not worth it for him to come out here. So he'll pass them off to me. And what I'll do is I'll send him like a 10% kickback through Zelle or something, just a little bit of like an appreciation. And maybe one of my clients down here refers me to their cousin that's up in their area. Well, unless it's a good sized load, it's not going to be worth it for me to travel out an hour, hour and a half to go do this job. So I'll push it off to him. So that way you're kind of helping each other out in the long term, and you're solving your customer needs at the same time. Next up is knowledge and or knowing. So know your audience, know your market, know your area, know your field, I would hope, and know your resources, and knowing the best and the worst of each. So that way you're always prepared to adapt if the economy shifts or changes or your location changes. You know who your audience is if you're targeting people online for marketing purposes, or your market and your places around you and where to go and where's more likely to need you as a service. That way you're able to really filter out all the BS and you can focus on what matters. This next one I think is super important. Everyone should be doing it for just about everything you do. And that is track everything you do that works and doesn't work. Every time a customer calls you, you should find out how they heard about you. Even if they're just calling for an estimate. If they just call and say, hey, I'm in Boynton Beach and I'm just wondering how much you would charge for a couch. You could say, oh, great, be happy to help you out. Do you mind me asking how you came across my company? That way you know, oh, my friend referred me, or my realtor told me, or I saw your sign out on the road. And depending on their source, you can always offer a discount to them to help better engage your situation to where maybe they're more likely to go with you. Because I find that most people just call right off the back and say, hey, I have a couch. They're usually calling multiple places and they just want to know who's the cheapest. So if you may not be the cheapest, but you say, oh, great, you heard me from so-and-so, I can actually offer you a 5% discount for that. It's not going to hurt you much. It's going to knock like $5-7 off your bill. But it kind of triggers the customer's mind in a way of, oh, I can get a discount with this guy, cool. So not only are you more likely to seal the deal, but you're also finding out how they heard about you to where now in the future you know where to market to. So if I get 10 calls a month and 7 of those people are seeing me through the yard signs I put out by the streets, I know that the yard signs is a good investment because it's yielding results. Or if I'm having half those people call and say, yeah, a realtor referred me, I know to continue to network with realtors because they're proving to bring me in jobs. So always knowing where things are coming from. Also track your income as well, down to your monthly, weekly, daily income, your average job size. And you can really not only use this to track to see how you're doing for the year, but for next year, you know what months are busy, what months are slow, and how to kind of prepare for them, or maybe when you need to push your marketing to, 70% to 90% to kind of help push a little bit more effort into the following month in hopes that you can bring in more jobs than last year. So make sure you're tracking everything you do. This next one is very important, I believe, and it's more of a legal situation, and that is to protect yourself. So avoid sketchy situations. That should be a common street smarts thing. If you're in a situation where you feel really uncomfortable, whether it's your environment around you, Maybe you're in a place that's not super safe and you're worried about getting robbed or attacked or whatever. Or maybe your client is just giving you off really bad vibes, or in a situation where, listen to your gut. If you feel like you're in a situation where something may not good come out of it, walk away. That's kind of the perk of being a business owner and running your own company is you have the authority to walk away from these situations. Whereas if you're working for someone else, your boss is going to say, well, unless you see something specific, hang in there. I was a mover for quite a few years, and we've been in situations where we've had clients shove our movers, like bam, push them off on the ground or something. I've had, I was a crew leader for almost all of my time as a mover. I've had my coworkers almost get into fist fights with clients for saying something stupid. Usually not the mover, the client says something stupid to them because they think they're invincible. They'll say something stupid or they'll offend them in some serious way or they'll threaten them and they'll just go off on them. I've also had clients threaten us with violence to get off their property in the middle of a move. They're just tricky situations, and management doesn't always deal with it the best way because they're not there handling it one-on-one. So avoid sketchy situations. If you're uncomfortable, you have the right to do something about it. Next up is to have rules for yourself. This is still under protect yourself, by the way. Next up is to have rules for yourself. So I don't necessarily mean like rules and restrictions for the things you do and don't take. Like let's, for example, I don't take paint because I don't want to spill out in my truck and trailer and get all over the place or spill out on property and then I'm responsible for it. What I mean more so is have rules for yourself in safety terms. So for example, I won't touch anything that's contaminated with blood or feces. For a further example, I had a client call me yesterday, repeat client, very friendly, has a business in a nearby area. I've done work for her husband as well. She called me and said that her sister-in-law is having her foot amputated and they need the bed removed because there's blood all over it and there's urine and they need to clean it out. And I was like, all right, well, I don't normally deal with that. Is it stained and dry? Because at that point, I can just slide it into a mattress bag and take it out and never actually touch the mattress. She said, no, it's unfortunately wet. That just happened last night. And I was like, all right, well, at that point, you need to call a biohazard company and have them come out and handle it on a more contamination safe kind of way. I'm personally not going to handle that because I don't want to take the risk of potential contamination. Now, if you're a go-getter and you don't care, you can go get a biohazard suit and charge a customer and then charge extra for the situation. That's fine. I'm not going to go to those extents. But that's one of those things where you want to have yourself safe first, or handling asbestos from insulation. It's not as common nowadays, but there's older homes out there that have that stuff, and breathing that stuff in and touching it can be very, very harmful to you. So money is great and all, but have rules for yourself to where you're not going to put yourself in a compromising position, or handling a piece so large or so heavy that you're going to hurt yourself or your coworkers, or in a situation where someone wants to bring down a double door concrete fireproof gun safe down 3 flights of stairs in a home, you better believe I'm not touching that thing. I don't care if I'm going to charge you $3,000 for it. I'm not touching it. Because all you need to have happen is that thing to slip and crush one of your employees' legs or crush down the stairway and destroy half the house. That $3,000 is going to be a drop in the bucket. Gone. I can make a video talking about all the crap I've seen as a mover and situations we've been stuck in. And protect yourself. You should be able to look at something and say, this probably isn't a good idea. Guess what? Don't do it. Turn it down. Give a customer a discount if you need to kind of win stuff over a little bit, but don't touch it. The next thing is super easy to do, and I think it's probably one of the best things you can do if you have a truck or a junk truck or a junk and trailer or a box truck, whatever. Get a dash cam, especially when you're a commercial business and you're under a commercial insurance. Once people realize that you're a commercial business, they will go after you like wildfire. So dash cams are pretty cheap nowadays. I have one in the front of my truck and in the back of my truck facing behind me. I would love to get one for the trailer facing behind so I could see if anything actually ever falls off and hits a car. Or if they just say, yeah, somebody fell off and hit my truck and I crashed into a wall and now I want you to buy me a new car. There's no way of proving it if I did or didn't. Let's just hope that never happens. Dash cams can be useful in accidents to prove fault or insurance scams, which is a huge thing in Florida, and I know it's big in other places too. Someone walks by, sees my truck and trailer, I'm at a stop sign, I'm waiting for them to pass, and they go over and go, bam, and fall on the ground and pretend like they're hurt. Wait for an ambulance to come and say, yeah, I'm dizzy, my head hurts. I was walking by and he didn't stop in time and bumped me, and now my neck hurts. I'm likely going to get sued no matter what. But if I have a dash cam that shows them walk over to my truck, you can clearly see them before the stop sign. They just came over, looked at me, smiled, and went, bam. They're going to go to jail for insurance scam. They might get let out a couple of days later, but they're going to get fined and go to jail in the meantime. And I'm just going to have to fix my hood. But better than a $1 million lawsuit. The next two tips are very mover knowledge. These are things that I used to hone down extremely well when I was a mover because I was a crew leader and I was responsible for the jobs and the crews. And this is before and after pictures and keeping track of pre-existing damage. So as a junk removal, and this is huge if you have a vacant property, take pictures of your jobs before and take pictures of your jobs after when you're going to leave. So that way, let's say another service goes in after you and damages the property, they can't come back and say you did it. Or say someone breaks in and trashes the place, you're not the one to get blamed. It would be stupid for you to do it, but the courts aren't exactly a smooth system, so you don't want to ever put yourself in that situation. So take before and after pictures, send them off to your client, whatever. Timestamps will save your life. And then pre-existing damage. So as a mover, we would take a picture of, let's say, a broken leg on a dresser so that when we go to move it, it's likely just going to snap off and then people don't say, oh, you broke my dresser, I can't use it anymore, I want you to buy me a new one now for $2,000, even though it's worth like $100. But for us, this is very important in a sense where, let's say you're in a property building, it's a nice place, they're super strict about it. They say you have to use this one elevator. If we see you go in the other one, you're leaving the building. You have to follow this path, or you're laying down cardboard in the carpet for you to follow. We don't want you walking on the carpet. We've all been in those places. I highly recommend that you start from wherever your truck is. You put your phone on video. You walk that path you're going to be walking the whole day. Walk through the front door, walk to the elevator. You're looking at the floors, looking at the walls around you. You're in the elevator, do a 360, top, floor, ceiling, everything. Into the hallway. You're walking down the hallway. You're looking at the walls, you're looking at the floors, all the way up to your client's door. And the reason being is, the moment you leave, if they see a mark on the wall, they see a gash in the drywall, they see a scratch on the floor, whether it's you or not, they're going to call you. They're going to threaten to fine you. If you refuse to pay, you'll probably get sued. That is something you do not want to have go through your COI if you don't have to, because your insurance may pay for it. But guess what? Just like car insurance, your rates are going to go up, and commercial insurance already sucks. So make sure you're covering yourself in those senses. Even if you go to a home and a client says, I just want you guys real careful with the floor. This wood floor scratches really easily, or the last time the movers were up here, they banged up all the walls getting this piece out. If it looks like it's likely to happen with you, I would turn the piece down and just not even bother with it, because the client may say, oh yeah, it's fine, don't worry about it. But the moment you leave, they're going to call and say, hey, you fucked up my walls. I want you to come fix it. Take pictures of stuff. I have an Invoice app that allows me to add pictures to my invoice and my estimates and send this to the email with the client, and it'll show up with the job. What you can do is take pictures of all the pre-existing damage on the floor. Let's say there's a big gash in there, there's a huge mark in the drywall. Anywhere that you're going to be going with pieces, take pictures ahead of time so that way you can show to your client, hey, I wasn't the one to do this, I need you to sign off here. And just tell them it's an insurance reason. They don't have to know that you're just trying to protect yourself, even though you are. Just say it's for insurance purposes. And that way they can't come back and say, hey, you screwed up so-and-so. All right, the next two are more personal, but kind of obvious. The first one is have fun on your jobs. Try to resell stuff and look for cool things. That's the perks of like junk removal. When you do moving, you're in all kinds of houses. You're in multi-million-dollar houses. You're in hole-in-the-wall houses. You're in restaurants. You're in offices. you're moving stuff from point A to point B. You don't get to really enjoy the stuff in between. You're just miserable. Junk removal, though, you never know what you're going to find that day. You could be just going to another storage unit, and the guy's like, yeah, it's just full of trash. You know, something I bought off an auction. I don't want it. You walk in, and maybe it's full of, like if you're into Pokemon, let's say it's full of Pokemon cards. Hello, jackpot. You know, that could be worth thousands of dollars, and or just childhood, little memories. Or maybe you come across like a really cool vintage clock or something, or some collectibles or something from like World War II, and you're like, that's cool. It's kind of stuff like that where it's like one man's junk is another man's treasure. You never know what you're going to come across. You may come across something that's super expensive to resell. You may come across something just in general you think is really cool. Maybe you're put in situations where, because you're not dealing on such a stress level with your clients, because moving is marked one of the top 5 stresses behind death of a family. Junk removal, although they're paying for you to move away their junk, which sucks. For the most part, you're likely going to have a little bit more laid back people. Sit there and chit chat with them. Find fun stories, talk about their house or their things that they have, cars, jobs, whatever. I feel like just in general, it's a little easier to have a better connection, have a little bit more fun on your jobs. And then the last thing, very important, don't forget about yourself. Especially as a business owner, make sure you're resting, make sure you're paying yourself first. Enjoy life outside of work. That's the one thing I've really found, that my scheduling is so inconsistently hit or miss that it's ridiculous. I could have nothing for a couple of days, and I could go out and do the lawn, and someone calls and says, hey, I have a whole house I need to get cleaned out. What's as soon as you can be here? And I say, I could be there in an hour. And next thing you know, I'm gone for 5 hours. And then when I come back, it's nighttime and the whole day's gone. And then I could get something while I'm there called, and I have to go in tomorrow. And maybe all of a sudden I'm booked up for 7 days. So just like that, my whole week is work. And it's so inconsistent that it makes things hard to schedule. So make sure that when you have the opportunity that you're enjoying yourself outside of work. So that's it for me. I know this is a little bit of a longer video, but I feel like it's all worthwhile stuff that you've kind of learned. I'm sure a lot of you are in similar boats, or if you're looking to get into it, maybe keep some of the stuff in mind. I hope the protecting yourself and the moving tips are very helpful for some of you guys. They're definitely things that I never would have thought about until I was a mover, but they make a lot of sense, and they make sense for a reason, because things happen, and the potential things that could happen is kind of limitless. So protect yourself, be confident, be professional, have fun. Otherwise, why are we doing a business versus going to work for somebody else besides the money? You want to have your freedom. You want to be able to say and do the things you want to do. You want to be able to turn down a job if you need to. And you want to make more money. So I hope some of this helps. Likewise, if you're a business owner junk removal, comment down below a couple of the things you found to be helpful or that you've learned that you maybe didn't know before. And just go ahead and share it with everyone else. But hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you later on in the week. Bye.